it's Noctis. Subscribe to Vincent Valentine EX Turk channel.
What's up, my archfiends of chaos? This is your king tonight, Vincent Valentine EX Turk. And if you can't tell, I'm on a PSN chat. That's why I got the Scouter headphones like this. You know, my Turtle Beaches with my Scouter. And speaking of superhero stuff, we're going to be talking about hidden superpowers that Noctis have that people don't really know about. So we're not going to include the armor durability. We're not going to be including the fact he can use all the other previous king's swords, or the fact he can use magic, because those are pre-established. Those are some pre-established powers Noctis had from the very first trailer, which was in Versus 13, to Final Fantasy 15. And so we're going to be talking about established powers, most likely. I mean non-established powers. So let's get started. This is a 12-minute video, and I had to get back on my PSN chat. So I'm going to get started right now. Alright, let's see. Noctis can actually fly. Yes, it's not an established power in the game, but when you get to a higher level with the assertion ability, you can actually fly using the warp strikes. And what I mean by using the warp strikes is if you jump high enough with the warp strikes and, you know, have your warp strikes hit directly on all several targets all at once. If you're at a high enough level of your character or the ascension abilities, you can perform a flying warp strikes where it just constantly warp strikes all over in the air. So Noctis can fly using a bunch of warp strikes. So that's on one unestablished power. Number 2 is another big example of an unestablished power that Noctis has. I'm on a video, by the way. There's another established power that Noctis has. He can actually warp reality into the way he wants, but in order to do this, he has to give up his life to Bahamut, because that's how it is. Kind of the same kind of power that Nyx Ulrich had in King's Glaive. But Nyx Ulrich rejected the power, but had to give up his life anyway just to get a little, taste sample of the power. But Noctis got the full power. Of course, it did sacrifice his life, so he still exists, but in spirit form, just like how Arden exists. But so he's just gonna be sitting there all day, in the throne with Luna Freya, but only in spirit form. As the same thing with her, due to his ability to, warp reality. But that ability really costs his life, so I don't know if it's actually a natural ability that Noctis really has. So I'm trying to think. Another superpower that Noctis has that nobody else knows about. He can actually warp dimensions using the Ring of Lucii. When you press the triangle button, he could take all the enemies into a dimensional wormhole. Here's the thing: the catch is they gotta be low enough level to get sucked in. If they're higher level than you are, or too high, you can't use that on the Iron Giants. But all low level enemies can get sucked in the warp dimension and get destroyed and dismantled by the warp dimension using the Lucii ring. Now, to be able to cast death, that was already established power in the trailers. But the warp dimension was not established. You just figured it out. As well as another superpower Noctis has that nobody else knows about. He can also use Holy as well. Remember Aerith Gainsborough from Final Fantasy VII? Well, he could use that power too, just by holding down square when your enemies attack. So another thing he can use is Holy, which is another unestablished power that Noctis has. Okay, another let's see. I think, is it number 5? I can't remember. I do not know how to count, but number 5, I'm guessing. When he takes any of the previous king's weapons, he could see a little bit of their past. I mean, even though it don't show you in the game with no cutscenes and stuff like that, but when Noctis, has those swords come out and his eyes turn red every time he picks up any of the previous Lucius King's or Queen's swords, he can actually see a little bit into their past as well, which is again an unestablished power, but still another superpower that Noctis has that's unestablished. Let's see. Trying to think of what else power Noctis has that's unestablishment. Trying to think. This is a hard one. If you're at a high enough level, you could do multiple warp strikes without losing too much energy. Depending on weapons, if you use daggers, you could do You can actually do multiple warp strikes to get faster traction, so you don't have to actually run as well. Also, let's see. Another superpower that's unestablishment. I'm not gonna put this in number of orders at all. I know this kind of sounds unorganized, but I'm gonna do it my way. Another unorganized. Sorry, another superpower Noctis has that's unestablishment is he can also see some of the future too. Every time he touches the astrals, his eyes glow red. But it's another established power that Bahamut gave him, which is another. I wouldn't say it's Noctis' superpower as it's Bahamut's power because Bahamut gave him that power. It wasn't Noctis coming up with that power. So with that, that's another. I guess it could be considered still Noctis one of Noctis's superpower that's not established as well. I guess you could call it as it is, and I don't really know the rest, but there's a lot more superpowers that's unestablished in the Final Fantasy 15 franchise that Noctis can do. We're not gonna be able to see a whole lot until the DLC comes out. So those are I'd say a list of 8 superpowers Noctis, Lucius, Kylium has that has been unestablished, pretty much just discovered. So may the crystal be with you, and well, that's pretty much the list I could come up with.